Hello, listeners. Today we are kicking off a new series entitled Minting Unicorns, Blockchain, AI, and Dubai, sponsored by the Dubai Department of Economy and Tourism, or DET. Dubai is the new global center of gravity, connecting the world in a way few places can. From flexible regulations to tax incentives, world-class infrastructure to access to global investors managing $1 trillion in investment money, Dubai understands what businesses need to scale fast. In this episode, we are speaking with Raakin Iqbal, aka Rock and Roll, CEO and co-founder of Nucleus AI. Raakin is not only going to tell us about how Nucleus is building pre-AGI, but also how the ecosystem in Dubai is supporting their growth and success. Well, Raakin, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Before we jump into Nucleus and Dubai and the ecosystem there, tell me and my audience a little bit about you.
So I've always been, you can say, the serial entrepreneur type of guy, born and raised around the Washington, D.C. area. Ended up in Dubai a little less than a year ago for a sheer of several different coincidences overlapping each other. I've done kind of a handful of things ranging from back in 2005, 2006, I launched the first Pakistani artist on iTunes. Then in 2020, I co-founded the first nationwide COVID testing tool with a buddy of mine. I eventually became the COVID testing location tool. And now I'm here working on pre-AGI in Dubai now.
Fantastic. Super cool. Okay. So I could probably guess as a serial entrepreneur what you do for fun, but I'm going to ask it blankly. What do you do for fun?
Truthfully, I love playing basketball. It's actually interesting. I did basketball during high school, and due to an unfortunate knee injury, I led me to the road of entrepreneurship. But really just being active, doing something, whether it's playing a sport or even if it's just opening up perplexity and just asking it stupid questions.
Digging the basketball, but sorry to hear about the knee injury. It did lead you down some fun paths, though. I can tell, and excited to dive into one of those. So tell me about Nucleus AI. Like, what is Nucleus AI? What do you do?
We're addressing a problem across a few different sectors. Like we're talking about RAG and AI, ChatGPT, and basically the basic stuff and everything. But however, there's a fundamental problem. Like when you look at like organizations or even ministries, there are petabytes worth of data that unfortunately a typical AI context window can't really enhance and capture. And then even in that, the output overall, it's very black and white. It doesn't have that human intelligence, and nor the AI can really act on it. The larger approach for us is we actually want to head towards AGI in a couple of years. Are we close? Definitely not. However, there's different parts of this AGI journey we're on right now, and we're using various pilots, feedback loops, and building it, and essentially letting SMEs and ministries get the most out of their data, and obviously using advanced AI to make it happen.
So you mentioned AGI, right? And Nucleus is often described as pre-AGI. Could you explain how this sets you apart from other AI solutions? You know, all of the buzzwords of AI right now and all the solutions that are going out there. How does this set you apart, right? And to the ones that are out there in the market?
If you look at it, if you look at the overall AI ecosystem, you have your big players out there. Like you have your Anthropic, OpenAI, DeepMind, and everyone else out there. And they independently as separate companies have done their big, massive contributions. Where we see the problem that's coming into it is we're looking at it as, okay, the tools are here now. How do we enhance it to the next generation? And that's where the term pre-AGI comes from there. Each company, like for example, Anthropic focuses on safety of AI. OpenAI was the father of LLMs in a way, or like commercialized LLMs, where now we can engage with these large language models on a day-to-day basis. And with us primarily, we're taking a traditional concept of a neural network and we're enhancing it in a different approach. Hence why our offering is like a neural network as a service where someone can essentially dump their information on, and learning the intricacies and relationship between the data points. The AI is supposed to be understanding how a particular use case can develop and then apply that use case to enhance that data. So we're looking at it from a different lens. So we're not recreating or creating our own LLM or action model. We are essentially enhancing it in a different manner.
That makes sense. So I'm interested in understanding how, Nucleus is able to comprehend operational intricacies rather than just automating tests. It sounds like that is based on what you were just answering. Is that correct?
Yeah. So really to dig a little deeper into this, right? Like I think let's look at the current problem at hand with automating. So for example, as like right now, the common word being thrown around is multi-agents, right? Like multi-agent, this multi-agent that. There's a lot of speculation that I think Amazon's coming up with a keynote at some point, and the keyword's going to be agent. It's very linear. Even multi-agents, as how innovative it is, it's a very linear approach to where for us at Nucleus, we're saying, how can we take that agent and make it really multidimensional? Meaning, think of it as like you're moving out of your home and you ask a bunch of friends to help you move out, right? So obviously you're not going to be like, all right, Bob, pick up the sofa, Joe, pick up the TV, and once you're done, go home, right? It's going to be a fluid relationship between you, Bob, and Joey, and whoever who are going to help you move out. Utilizing those similar principles, we're applying it to our version of multi-agent, which is like a process similar to how what OpenAI does and Anthropic does is we do, as myself and the team, we do a lot of research and then we apply that research in POCs, and those POCs, we apply it to our eventual end commercial product that we're rolling out in the coming months.
So how does your approach align with, organizations like OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepMind, to these advanced AI strategies? Can you name some of the proof of concepts to illustrate this?
It's interesting you mentioned that. So just about a couple of weeks ago, we had, I like to say like a breakthrough, but one of our pilots that we have running is with Dubai Airport out of the many pilots. And I can definitely get into how our pilot is structured because it's different. But with Dubai Airport, the pilot that we had running it's how do you take that live data and feed it into the system? And that data is always changing every so often. So how do you not repeat those same errors? Once that is happening, how do you make the data understand the human conversational nuances? For instance, a couple of weeks ago, we made this demo video where we put ChatGPT versus our Dubai Airport engine. Keeping in mind our engine, we had basically a 10-page document on there that's linked to it, whereas OpenAI having the access to the open web. So to show proof of concept of what we start to see as we're building this out is I asked a simple question. I asked it like, my mother has mobility problems, but what are my food options in Terminal 3? ChatGPT, standard, doing what it does best. It lists out the options, Starbucks, McDonald's, wheelchair access, and gives you like a very straightforward point answer, which is great because a lot of developers and engineers out there build on primarily ChatGPT, OpenAI APIs, and that's fine. Whereas our system, what it did, it took it one small step forward. And that is initially after listing out the options, it went and it was like, you know what? Why don't you look at gates like, I believe it was like gates B10 and B14 and B11, because that's the higher concentration of food options together. And the reason why we believe that's like our version of a small breakthrough is that it understood that human nuance of the conversation, like where you could say the general intelligence slowly starts to creep in a little bit, where, okay, this individual has mobility issues, so we're going to make recommendations that are near each other. Whereas on the ChatGPT or any LLM, or in that case, was saying go to concourse A, concourse D. Obviously, someone with mobility issues, even with wheelchair access, doesn't want to be running around Terminal 3 of Dubai Airport. So that kind of was our little mini breakthrough in an application use of how to enhance that.
That's a really cool story, and very personalized for you to use your own tool to go about that and sort of see the value that came immediately from it. I'm curious too, like, what is the difference? This will be just kind of a bigger high level question. What is the difference between generative AI and AGI in your view, and why is Nucleus focusing on AGI?
Everyone has a different view to it. For instance, like we view AGI as something like where you take general information. It can be something as basic as kids under the age of 2 drink milk from a bottle, or people, in this case, people with mobility issues need assistance. It's like taking that information and applying it into the actual use case. Now, that use case doesn't have to be like a chatbot. It can be a task planner. It can be an AI call center or whatever the end product may be. So looking at where we see AGI is more like, okay, how do you expand key aspects of the present process, hence the term pre-AGI. So for example, we're looking into how do you get to an infinite context window? Or as in this case, how do you deploy a set of agents that are able to understand large chunks of data while keeping that context window in place? Because we have another set of pilots for regulatory work. When you have different regulations stacked one on top of another, you're going to lose context. And that's something that unfortunately the typical person buying AI service doesn't realize. That's what leads to inaccurate data. And we are directly addressing that with Nucleus AI, hence why we believe we're a bit different compared to the present options out there.
So then what are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities in development of AGI? And how are you approaching them, right? It's a hard problem to solve, and it's outside of the, maybe the hyped lane, right? So tell me about some of those challenges.
There's a bunch. Like it's funny because I had met someone a while back and they were like, I got your email. It seems that you solved AGI. And I'm like, we're in no way close to solving AGI, because AGI has a fundamental bunch of issues, right? Like obviously right now, something that is not being really publicly spoken about is there's a hardware and physical resource limitation, because I might need to get fact checked on this one. But Google search essentially uses, I think the Google searching infrastructure, I think you're using like maybe 0.5, maybe 1% of the energy resource available around the world to like power data centers and actually execute that search on keywording index and everything, and et cetera, et cetera. As everyone start to engage with generative AI, ChatGPT, Llama, whatever, that requires significant amounts of resources right now. And what's actually happening even right now in the generative AI space is if we continue on this trajectory right now in generative AI, we will have probably caused a new crisis coming up in the future versus, as we're talking about climate change and climate crisis, like we're going to probably have an extension to that because we're just running too many servers reading our resources. So that's why there's a physical limitation to it. And that's why we were very careful to say we're not AGI, we're leading up to it, because we believe that if we take the software approach first, build up towards AGI, and whenever this problem gets solved, whether it's by Google, Microsoft, or even OpenAI or Anthropic, on how do we address the hardware situation, we're already ahead on the software side of things. That's why where we see the issues, but also the area of opportunity to excel as well.
Sure. Oh, that makes a ton of sense. And I appreciate you pointing that out. It's not apparent outside of, those in the industry, I think, how much, computational power is used and how much server power is used and what that could lead to. I appreciate you pointing that out. Let's move forward then, right? Could you share maybe some concrete examples of how Nucleus has enhanced efficiency for enterprises and government bodies within Dubai, right? So tell me some concrete examples that you're going and changing things for these folks in Dubai.
A lot of the stuff that we're doing, we research, pilot it, and then we apply it. So right now we're like at the second stage right now, in which one of the works that we're doing on is working primarily on regulatory work. One of the key things that our focus is, how do you take advanced AI and understand regulation and turn it and use it as a use case? So a great use case is with one of our other pilots with Dubai Blockchain Center, where it's headed by Dr. Marwan, in which in that case, what happens is the use case that we're working with Dr. Marwan and DBC is if someone essentially wants to launch a token or register a blockchain company, there's significant amount of regulation that comes in. Now, obviously, anyone who essentially wants to do such, they simply take the rule stack, put it into ChatGPT or whatever, and run questions against it. But the issue that becomes is when you get a rule stack of, let's say, VARA in this case, that the VARA is the regulatory agency that regulates virtual tokens or currency in that sense in Dubai. But when you get VARA's regulations, it's a pretty big and always evolving packet of rules and regulation that comes up. But then when you add central bank and like the other different layers of regulations on top of that, you now have the situation where there may be too many rules, or there might be a gap between set of rule 1, rule 2. So how do you utilize advanced AI to understand the context between one set and another set and to reason and to apply it into a use case? And then on top of that, to add more issues to this, when someone, let's say, engages with it, and this exists with any SME taking on any chatbot operations in general, is when you start to ask questions, start to use chatbots to prepare applications, prepare insights and data with all the ontology in the world you can put into it, at some point sooner, because the more bigger the rule stack is, the more processing it has, the more quicker you lose the context. So typical context, you typically and start to lose context off of any conversation on the third or fourth message onwards. And now the deeper you go, the deeper the hallucinations become. And when you're in the world of ministry or in the world of SME or large scale enterprises, you really can't afford that. The goal for us is utilizing our agent approach and our continuous building of our context windows. We want to see, as a concrete example, is when someone goes, let's say in this case, to the Dubai Blockchain Center website, and they're like, I want to launch a token. They start putting in their information, and the system is already building up context between the various rule stacks of the governing bodies, and it is influencing that application to ensure that when that application is created, it easily fits between the different rule stacks. And at the same time, it also helps with government efficiency. For instance, one of the big initiatives that was launched by His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of Dubai, is he envisions government bureaucracy to hit zero. Advanced AI, such as Nucleus AI, can and does and will make that happen. We're now making that process streamlined quick. So meaning now, in this case with VARA or central bank for their respective use case, they can do quicker approvals or quicker insights because the AI is able to hold that context, apply that context, and reason that context in full form compared to chain of thought or other approaches being presently taken by the other market out there.
That's really interesting to think about government bureaucracy going to zero, and being able to achieve that would be a massive, massive win. So, okay, let's move forward then. We're talking to, folks in like the Dubai Blockchain Center, Dr. Al-Zaruni, and he spoke about the convergence of blockchain and AI, right? And you touched on that. How do you foresee this synergy advancing within Dubai and potentially outside of that on a global scale? And I think moving into that a little bit deeper, what role do you see Nucleus playing in the broader AI blockchain ecosystem in Dubai and globally?
A few different roles, right? Like, again, at the end of the day, when you look at blockchain, simple transaction, verification, everything else, we see Nucleus kind of being a top layer sitting on top of any respective blockchain. We're not married to one particular approach or not, but sitting there trying to understand the relationship, because right now we're in this realm of data processing on different chains and nodes and going from there. How do we build those solid relationship between one and another node all the way on the other side of everything? We see Nucleus being like, as we like to jokingly say, the South Asian matchmaker we see on Netflix or like Love is Blind, Habibi or whatever on Netflix, whatever it is, right? So it's like kind of playing that matchmaker between the blockchain and aspects and bringing it together. That's like more of like the consumer angle. But also on the same time, what we are hoping to do with Dr. Marwan and DBC, as well as all the respective regulatory agencies, is that we want to set a global example out there. A while back, His Excellency was basically heading the remote work and AI ministry. He mentioned during the World Government Summit last year that Dubai and the UAE is like your sandbox to all AI companies. Like, you want to build, you want to scale, you want to take it there, come to Dubai, come to the UAE and make it happen, right? Like, we will support you. That's exactly what they're doing, even with Nucleus AI right now. So taking that model and applying it to blockchain now, if we can use advanced AI on the regulatory side and ensure that whoever's registering a virtual currency or whoever is registering a blockchain or like an entire exchange per se, or even the lawyers who are helping these companies who may want to offset their work and let the tokens kind of go to the AI and let them take up the higher billables to help them maximize their own revenues. This can actually supercharge and essentially set a precedent for the global market. Like the European Union, even the United States can take example from the UAE on how streamlined and efficient they have built out the regulatory framework using Nucleus AI and the advanced AI approaches to make it happen. And right now, Dubai is already having a big crypto boom as it is. Imagine that now going 500x, because now it could potentially be as easy as launching a coin by picking up your phone, or if you're sitting in the Bahamas, making a call to the AI call center for DBC or any of these guys and launch a token, and you're all within regulation.
It's amazing to think about that being so easy to just make happen wherever you are. You mentioned this a bit earlier when you're saying, if someone was to kind of ask you about the ecosystem, right? So say you're riding on a plane, a train, an automobile, right? And you're sitting next to that person and they ask you, like, what's it like? What's Dubai's ecosystem for AI and for machine learning, for innovation, for product development? What's it like? What would you tell them?
When you look at the valley, right? The Valley is something very special and very unique in its own kind, right? Like you have a concentration of the highest net worth VCs, the most inspirational VCs out there. You have people, talent, education facilities like Stanford and all concentrated in this small valley. But when you look at Dubai, because the valley makes sense, because that's the market they're in. That's how the United States were founded, on those core principles of innovation in that respect. Whereas in Dubai and the UAE, it's more like, how do you empower with the right resources? Now, given obviously the framework, the structure of government, it's much different than what the United States is. But what it does allow, what the UAE can do, and let's say the United States could not, is it can streamline that regulation. And when you streamline that regulation, it makes things more easier to produce, more easier to test out against a theory. For example, no tech founder or even a angel investor or VC who's invested in a founder's vision ever wants to be caught up in a situation where they've built such a great product and their money is being burned in litigation costs, right? The ecosystem here, because when you look at the overall ecosystem, it's literally, as I said, it is a sandbox. Like you literally are able to try out new things here, apply it here, and then you have the support of the primary stakeholder, the primary ministries, because there's this grit that has been established in the core fabric of the founding of Dubai and UAE, where when you work to the maximum potential and that ecosystem rubs off you when you're in Dubai. There's this famous quote that His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid said that I did practice in the United States when I was in the US, but you see it in full action here. Whether you're a gazelle or a lion, when you wake up in Dubai, you better start running. That just makes you push. And when you have the supporting framework around you to support it, to do your vision, you get interested stakeholders. When those stakeholders come to invest and get into you, then they empower your idea. And that's what Dubai is about. Think of it like a community of different communities, all empowering one another to make big things happen.
Okay, so a couple more questions. With Dubai's advanced AI initiatives, right, like AI Campus and other licensing programs, how has Nucleus benefited from this environment? And I think especially, in your pursuit of AGI.
When someone comes to a brand new country, like I've been in Dubai for about a little over a year and some months. When you come in, you really don't know what's happening, what's around you, what are your resources, who knows, who doesn't know. Is this all just hype or is this the real thing? What is the willingness or the kind of going out there? When you look at the overall scheme of things, there's a lot of avenues that kind of exist around it. So like with the AI initiative and with everything with myself, I found that whenever I have a question or a problem or something I didn't understand, right? Like I can go to the DC AI office, which basically is the part of the Dubai Future Foundation, where they will literally handhold me and walk me through how to do this, how to do that. Or for the AI campus, you now have an internally built ecosystem of people ranging from the private sector, from the government sector, both sectors who are very hungry to see AI innovation come out. I know there's a company called Camp AI that they're based out of the Dubai AI campus and Musavar. And like there's a few good companies out there are based out there. And the beauty is that when they push out, they really excel because they have access, right? And that's what they're trying to do with this initiative. They're trying to give access to where you need access versus sending 1,001 cold emails and hoping that 2% write back to you, right? There's WhatsApp groups. Like there's a WhatsApp group called Coders HQ. If you like to write code, doesn't matter what your skill set is, you're on this WhatsApp group chat and, you can share ideas. Like imagine like a country-wide kind of a Discord where everyone in the country is on there and you can just ask each other questions because that's the community they've built around it.
Excellent. Okay, Raakin, last question. This is really fitting in to be my last question too, because I'm curious about, you've got AI startups right all over the US as well, right? Say they're considering Dubai to expand into. What advice would you give those folks considering Dubai for that expansion?
The number one thing of coming into Dubai altogether is know a few things. If you're trying to enter the global market, then you need to be in Dubai. That's like the number one thing for a fact. If your product has global scalability, meaning you're built with being global in day one or day zero in that case, then yeah, Dubai is a place to go. Because if you think about it, a typical 6-hour flight flying over any flight path, you're exposing yourself to over 50 million different people with a range of different nationalities, just over a 6-hour flight. And these are people from different countries, not of one country. The number one thing to look at is, are you willing to try to enter the international market? If you are, come to Dubai. Do you see the door to a larger market, Because don't take the size of the geography of the UAE or even Dubai in that case, because it punches way above everything else. And it's more like you get those resources, you get that support, you get that geographical access. That's where you really flourish to become international. And ultimately, the people who essentially would be buying your services are all vested in your success as well. There is a big strategical advantage to being in Dubai or expanding into Dubai than anything else.
Wow, that makes total sense. Well, Raakin, I appreciate you being on the show today. It's clear that Nucleus is in pursuit of obviously pre-AGI, but also the merging of AI and blockchain and taking on a big task there. And the support that you've found in the Dubai ecosystem for AI, for blockchain, for all things at the intersection is clearly built the foundation to help your company succeed and opening doors to larger markets and larger opportunities. So I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
What a great conversation with Raakin, really illustrating all that the Dubai startup ecosystem has to offer to budding startups, in particular those in AI and blockchain. The Dubai Blockchain Center and the AI Campus are helping pave the way for startups like Nucleus AI to be successful. As a reminder, you can check out the resources mentioned during the show by visiting the show notes. There are links to the Dubai Blockchain Center, AI Campus, D33 Economic Agenda, and much more. And thanks again for listening.